So let's just get started. I think the first thing that we kind of want to talk about, and it's going to be something that we're going to talk about on all these podcasts going forward, and at least assuming we continue doing these, is just the state of the game as it stands right now, or with an upcoming patch or something like that. Um, and it's something that, I don't know. I think we talk about this a lot. Obviously, like I talk about it on stream, and whenever we're hanging out after stream and stuff like that, we seem to always just gravitate towards this. So,
definitely.
So generally speaking, like about the state of the game, like the state of the game right now, the way that I see it, I think there are a couple major issues with Enlisted right now. But actually, let's start off with the good stuff, right? Let's start off with the good stuff and then get into the bad stuff. So good stuff. How'd you feel about Operation Summer? Did you like generally speaking about it?
Oh, the Operation Battle Summer? I think it was a great idea. The execution around it was a little odd though to me.
Yeah. How so?
Well, it was just like the challenges spread across like the different days.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Whereas like, it's like one day it's like SMG kills, and then what was it? Like one day I think it was like 3 wins on Normandy. It was kind of weird.
Yeah. I definitely agree. It's a little weird, although I don't know, I felt like it kind of worked well though. Like it was kind of this thing where it's like, okay, I couldn't play on Monday, but I still get to complete the tasks or something like that. And they had it set up to where it's like the last 2 days had enough tasks for everyone to finish everything. Like you could still get everything even if you only played the last 2 days, which was pretty cool. And then you also could do the first like 8 or something like that. So I don't know. I like that. I like that you also didn't have to complete all of the tasks. I thought that was really
a very
great.
Good thing. Yeah, it definitely beat what was it, the Normandy event that
that one sucked. Yeah, they definitely learned from that.
Going to the dentist.
Yeah, and they I like that they had 15 tasks. You didn't have to do all of them. Because that also made it easier to where it was like, yeah, if you like with the Normandy one, it was like, okay, if you don't have a flamethrower, you can't do it.
I don't know how you did that with flamethrower Trooper 1s. Like Flame Trooper 2s made it bearable, but
I never did the task. I purchased it out. I saw it. I looked at it immediately and it was like, no, I will gladly spend $2 to skip this bullshit. So that was nice. But I didn't have to do that with this one. I was able to just like go through all the tasks, do them at my leisure. And I had a big kind of thing going on last weekend, so I didn't, get to do those. I didn't get to do the weekend ones, but I was able to do everything over, through the week, which was really nice. How'd you feel? Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel the rewards were pretty interesting. The only thing I think was bad with the rewards was another SMG squad for the Soviets.
Yeah.
Like, do they need more? Like,
really, you don't think that the Soviets have been really struggling with SMGs? You know? Yeah. The PPK. Is it the PPK? Yeah, the PPK. Yeah, right. Yeah, the Kalashnikov. I've learned. Yeah, I don't think they needed that. I don't even know. I don't know. That just totally seemed unnecessary. It's a cool squad though, and they have cool camos, even though they look like they're a bunch of Shreks running around or something. I don't know.
I mean, that's the historically accurate camo that some of the units wore in Berlin. So
they look goofy. But the other awards, the sword is awesome. I like the sword a lot. I thought the sword was a great little thing.
Sword is dope.
Yeah, you can just run around with it, chop people up. You zoom with it. You just totally sprint around.
Zoom and boom strats with
the sword. You're so fast with it. And then I haven't played with the Moscow plane, but everyone I've seen has said that it's just terrible. Like,
yeah, I just think it's outclassed by what else is in the campaign.
Yeah. And then the Rhino, I played with the Rhino a little bit. I think if the Rhino would have been released like towards the beginning of the game's, like towards the beginning when the game came out, it would have been a lot better. But now that like everybody has Panzer 4s and 3s and stuff, the poor little Rhino just gets destroyed by everything.
That and it already had a Twitch drop for it.
Yes, yeah. So now I have like 3 Stuarts. Yeah. And then the better armor piercing ammo is like not actually relevant in the slightest.
it's a 37 mil cannon. How much more armor piercing ammo are you gonna get?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything, and it's still solid shell, so where it's just like if you don't directly hit the ammo like 3 times in a row, it doesn't do anything. Like it can take on like the Panzer III and the Panzer IV, and it's kind of fun too because you do get to just kind of zoom around the map and like flank people. Like I had a couple of games that I was playing around with it, and it was fun to just like zoom and flank by enemies and like spray at them and stuff. But like one thing is the maps are so like condensed that you can't even take advantage of it a lot of the time.
Yeah, that is one of the, I know we've discussed this. I don't even know how many countless times. Like the fact that the only thing that's viable is heavy armor and light vehicles for the most part just die horrendously on the maps is a huge problem because they're just so condensed right now.
Yeah. You can't, like, there was literally a time where a tank was out of bounds. It was a Panzer IV, and it was out of bounds for my tank. Like, I couldn't go and attack. Like, I physically, I couldn't pin the front of it because I have a fucking 37 mil cannon, and I can't flank because it's out of bounds, and I get, like, 5 seconds, you know? So it's I don't know. In regards to that, it really sucks. But the Rhino is, I gotta say, it is fun to run infantry over with. You know how?
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I don't know if you've used it, but normally when you run infantry over, it takes a couple seconds of like touching them and like hitting them to kill them. Not with the Rhino. With the Rhino, everything that you touch just instantly dies on the front, which is really fun to just like mess around. Some of the more open maps like Ver-sur-Mer Assault, that map. You can do some damage with it. It's a lot of
probably
fun.
Also amazing in those open fields at the Chateau map too.
Yes. Yeah, the problem with the Chateau map is there's a lot of trenches and stuff I noticed, and then the orchard, the trees will stop the tank. Yeah, you get stuck on the trees. And a lot of people like to play tanks on the map, generally speaking, so. But other than that, yeah, I liked it. I thought that for the Operation Battle Summer, they should have had more to where if you did complete everything, you still got some bonuses, like maybe just silver orders or something like that.
Yeah, more silver orders would have been great.
That was something that I think Game Prodigy mentioned, was that he like purchased an extra pass for science, or an extra like task for science, and he didn't get anything. And it was kind of strange that you didn't get any more. Like, I don't think there should be any major release or any major like rewards past those 8. I thought that was fantastic, but I think past that, silver orders would have been nice for the people who were
extra
hardcore
silver
about
orders
it.
would have always appreciated for the game,
especially
for the free to play players.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one thing that I've noticed is it's just like I get bonus silver orders for being a partner. I get like an extra 10 a month or something like that, which is like not that many. But
well, there you go, Daddy Warbucks.
Yeah, there we go. But I mean, 10 is like, that's like 2 FG42s or 3, which it's like if you're trying to deck out all your guys with that, like it's rough.
Which also raises an interesting question: is the weapons in the 30 level unlocks gonna be 4 silver orders? Oh, yeah. That's gonna hurt.
Absolutely, it will be
really hurt
because it's 0 to 10 or 1, 10 to 20 or 2. And then, or it's 0 to 10 is 1, 11 to 20 is 2, and then 21 to 30 are going to be 3. And then past that, 40, or past that will be 4. So that's going to hurt for sure. STGs out there costing a pretty penny.
Yeah, and anything in the 30 is going to hurt. Panzer Shreks, M1919 A6.
Fortunately, the thing that's kind of nice about Panzer Shreks is you really only need a couple of them. Like for bomber squads and stuff.
That is a redeeming thing.
Yeah. That's what hurts about like the FG42 and stuff, is that you need like,
yikes.
You literally need like 15 plus of them, and it's so many silver orders. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of silver orders on FG42s.
I thought that they said that they had 212,000 active players. Right?
Oh,
yeah. Which is crazy to me. I don't know if that was a typo. I honestly, I don't know if I can, like, I've talked about this on stream. I don't know if I can accept that number. I just don't know if I can.
It's so weird because it's like, I don't know how popular the game is in Europe. I know people, I know a large portion of your communities from Europe who's on Discord.
Yeah.
But like, and that's just Western Europe. We don't know people playing in, the Russian Federation or
Yeah.
stuff like that. We
Because
don't
it's
have numbers on
separated,
that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be a big thing. I guess the game could be like super popular in Russia, and that's like playing into those numbers, but like the 212,000 for me, I do not see that reflected in viewership either on Twitch or YouTube. And that isn't like, I don't want to act like that's like, oh, because I don't have viewers on YouTube, therefore the game doesn't have players. Like that's not always the case, but I find it hard to believe that there's less than 100 viewers on Twitch most of the time, and yet there were 212,000 active players. I mean, that's insane to me.
And also, like, how much of the chunk of that is people who download the game because, their friends are like, hey, there's this new free-to-play
True.
World War II shooter, and they play for an hour and are like, wow, I don't like this game,
Yeah.
and never log in again.
Well, yeah, it was like less than 15% got the first task, the first four tasks complete, the first reward, which is a pretty small amount. But I mean, that's like it's like 25,000 or something like that.
Oh, roughly around there.
Roughly around that, or 30,000 or so. Which I mean, isn't the worst. I mean, 30,000 active players right now is not bad, I think, for a game that isn't on Steam or any of the major, PC retailers.
Yeah, because I remember here, like, I was just somebody randomly putting it out there over on the official Enlisted Discord back before that existed, when it was on the same one as Cuisine Royale and stuff, saying that there was like only 25,000 people in the closed beta at the end of it.
Yeah, well, they said, I think when the open beta, someone mentioned to me that when the open beta started, it was like 45,000 active players or something like that, or 50,000, which I think makes a lot more sense, honestly.
Yeah, that sounds like a much more realistic, like a feasible number. Like 212,000 is a large number to say of people that you have in the game, but it's like, how many of them are like playing the game above like level 10?
Yes. Yeah, I would like to see that. But I mean, we can go look at like Counter-Strike Go right now has an active player count of about 500,000 players. So you're telling me that Enlisted, a game that is in open beta, not on any major retailer, has a player base of half of Counter-Strike? I mean, that's pretty crazy to me.
But the game is dying, man.
Yeah, the game's dying. Yeah,
the game is dying.
That's something that people say that a lot. People say, "Oh, like the game is dying. The game is terrible. No one plays. It's filled with bots." And I just don't. I mean, I think the game has issues, and I think the player base is decreasing. But that's because of more of the fact that I don't think that it's not being marketed, right? Like there's not, there's not a lot of new players coming in, and there's only people leaving, right? For a variety of reasons, why they might be leaving. But yeah, there's just like not a lot of new players coming in because there's not a lot of marketing for the game. I mean, it's not on Steam. I don't think there's any people that are going to be like coming in and just like seeing the game naturally. Things like that.
Yeah, I mean, just like in your stream, how many people come in for the first time and are like, "Oh, I decided to watch the stream because I seen your YouTube video." You know, it's like the overwhelming majority of newer people who want to come play Enlisted find your YouTube videos and then see you streaming on Twitch.
Yeah, there's very I think there's very few like new players who are like actively finding the game right now, as opposed to when the open beta came out and there was a lot of publicity for the game. And I don't think that that's weird. I don't think that that's like a problem. I think that whenever the game ultimately releases on a major platform, we'll see a lot more players kind of coming in over time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
One thing that I this is something that one of my big pet peeves is people always talk about how there's bots filling all the games. We both played closed beta. You played a lot more than I did. Do you feel like the game back then, whenever there were confirmed bots, like 100% confirmed bots, which today you can't really confirm them nearly as easily. Do you feel like the game has as many bots now as it did back then?
I don't think back then there were really bad times where most of the games were completely bots, even on PC and closed beta. I remember playing Moscow with mostly, it's like 3 people per side, and it's like, oh, we're playing Moscow with bots, and
it's like
it's definitely become a lot better. I think one of the biggest problems is, like, for example, especially in Berlin, because it's overwhelmingly people want to play Invasion there.
True.
When 4+ people on your team decide, like, we don't want to play Conquest and leave, and then those 4 slots are taken up by bots.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I run into that a lot. For sure that's a problem. I actually don't understand. I wonder if it's just a War Thunder thing, that they're doing the same thing they do in War Thunder, where they don't let people join mid game. I don't know why that is. Like in War Thunder, obviously that makes sense. You can't have people just like joining mid match, but like, because the spawn point system and stuff like that. But like in Enlisted, there's no difference between the 20-minute mark and the 2-minute mark, right? Like, I guess it can be frustrating to join a match in progress.
Yeah, because you don't get to spawn in your tank, or you.
But I still think that they could easily make it to where the first, you can join up through the first half of the game. So if one team, once the defenders have lost 3 objectives or the attackers have less than 500 tickets, then don't let people join in.
Right? Yeah, that makes a ton of sense, because I feel if you replaced those slots that are taken up by the bots, the game wouldn't feel like it is populated with bots.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I think a lot of people just assume that there are bots, and sometimes there are, and sometimes I think that there are just players out there who are just having bad games or are, below average players. We talked about it yesterday, where I think there's a big disconnect between what players think the game is and what the game actually is. And I know some of the content creators have kind of talked about this a little bit as well, where it's just, it feels like the game is kind of trying to go in 2 different directions, and it's not doing either of them very well.
Yeah, I've heard this conversation topic talked about before too.
Yeah.
It's a tough one, because people always are like, well, what's the big draw about Enlisted? And it's like, oh, you get the AI squads and the squad mates, and you can like instantly swap to like a bomber if you need to kill a tank, or you can instantly swap to a machine gunner if you want to murder the Germans in the hallway in a train station. And stuff like that. And then the big problem is then the bots don't behave like they should, like 90% of the time.
Right.
Yeah. But then on the flip side, you can't have bots like in closed beta where they snipe you through half the map of foliage.
Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, it's rough. I mean, like you said, I think the big draw of the game is the bots, the AI squad mates. I think that most people, whenever they come into the game, they are expecting to be able to control their squad in at least a basic way. They want to tell their guys to defend here and expect their AI to perform in a way that is at least semi-acceptable, right? While I don't think that happens to an extent, I think that you can control your AI, but I think the gunplay is also just a huge thing, and there's a disconnect of like the movement and the gunplay. Like, I know a lot of people have complained about movement being changed, because now we have like the movement is very fast in Enlisted for the most part. Like it's this thing where you move quickly, but you're also sluggish, I guess. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's such a unique, I know that's like oxymoronic of you're fast, but you're also sluggish. You just move so fast, but it often feels like, what's the point of moving really fast if you're using bolt actions? So then the movement naturally caters towards
you can run
SMGs.
Faster into the Germans with PPSHs, man.
Yeah, the Russians with PPSHs. Yeah.
Or Americans with Thompsons, or
or whatever
faster into the MGs of the Germans.
Right. It's this weird kind of like, I don't know. It feels like there's two parts of this game that are pulling on on the game in different directions, and neither of them are really working. Like you have this like arcade style where it's like everyone running around with SMGs and LMGs, like spraying, like Twitch shooter, like Call of Duty almost. Like it's this mix between like some of the gunplay, like some matches feels like I'm playing a mix between Call of Duty and Battlefield. Like I'm playing Call of Duty with really low time to kill. And then some matches feels like I'm playing like a mix between Red Orchestra and Battlefield, right? Where it's like semi-automatics, like I'm using, tanks, I'm using, stuff like that. It feels like the later in the campaigns you go, the more spamming of grenades and SMGs and LMGs and explosions and artillery. Like the later in the campaigns you go, the more that happens.
Oh, it's definitely a case of power creep.
Yeah.
Like to the extreme. Like a level 10 player versus somebody like you, me, or some other people in the frequent visitors of your stream. I feel bad on the, it's like seal clubbing almost some games.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this poor dude has his 4-man, radio squad with bolt action rifles. And here I come around the corner spraying something into all 4 of his dudes.
Yeah, exactly.
6 seconds.
Yeah. And it's pretty crazy. And I don't even, it's kind of weird because I don't even think that the game is necessarily like being a high level campaign, is an advantage for sure. But I don't even think it's necessarily an advantage in the sense of like, oh, I have the OP guns. It's more of an advantage of the fact that it's like you can bring so much stuff. Like it's not like a PPSH 41 is inherently OP on its own. It's the fact that you're bringing 4 assaulters all with PPSHs, or if you're Germany, you're playing a gunner squad who all have the 75 round MG34, and then you have a handful of like engineers and troopers and
with
radio
FG-42s.
operators with FG42s. Yep. And it's like everyone in your squad is decked out with massive firepower, and it's like one guy in that squad can wipe out an entire low level player squad in the blink of an eye. And so that low level player, even if he lands the shot with the bolt action, because that's the thing about bolt actions is they should always kill, right? That's the advantage, is if you land your shot first, you win the fight, right?
Yeah, but it's not going to stop the 3 other assaulters with PPSHs from coming around the corner.
Exactly. Like let even in the situation, right? So let's take the situation where you have Shroud, right? Or you have an aimbot player who has 5 bullets in their infantry soldier who lands every single shot on every single one of your guys coming around that corner. You still have some guys left in your squad that can, like, that guy is now out of ammo because he fired all 5 of his rounds, right? He's out of ammo now. And then now you go in with your guy with fully automatic gun and you mow down the whole squad. It's stuff like that kind of drives me crazy and makes me worry about the long-term health of the game. Like,
I definitely,
I don't know.
Definitely is a concern. I mean, how much, and then that becomes the issue of how many people are willing to endure that for so long.
Yeah.
Player retention is a huge thing with games. Like, for example,
especially this one.
Yes, because you have games like EVE where even the developer of EVE Online is like 89% of the people who come to want to play our game leave within the first 2 weeks.
Yeah. That's pretty common.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's tough. I feel like the guns don't have, some of the guns just feel too well-rounded, I suppose. LMGs especially feel very well-rounded. Like there's no, like, what's the downside of using an LMG?
You walk slow.
You walk kind of slow, I guess, but you can just pull out your knife and then you run fast. Right. So like that doesn't even.
Yeah.
When you pull, God forbid, you pull out a mine, and you know that.
Right.
So, yeah, you can just sprint around with it, and you're not even that much slower. You're basically using a handheld bolt action rifle that can be fired fully automatically with 75 rounds that spits out 700 rounds a minute. I don't remember what that.
800.
800. Yeah. God forbid.
800.
Yeah.
For the MG34, it's 800.
Yeah. So I don't know, that's kind of the problems that I see right now.
And actually higher than that if it's a 5-star
Oh yeah.
MG34 with the
Yeah.
75 round mag.
Yeah. I guess the downside is that you reload slowly, right? You have a 6-second reload speed or reload time. But I don't
Yeah,
even. But how much does that matter if you just wiped out the squad? Just reload, right?
yeah,
They're all
like,
dead. Who's gonna?
yeah. It can take you 10 seconds to reload if everything in front of you is dead.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so yeah, I don't know. I see that as a pretty big issue. It feels like oftentimes you can kind of just mitigate all of the downsides of LMGs. Like, oh, you don't have much ammo. Like, you have limited ammo supply. Just bring a large ammo bag. Costs like 4 bronze orders. Like, what do you do? Like, that's a couple games if you have premium, and maybe 3 games if you don't. Like, it's not that much of a grind. So I don't know. I know that, like, historically speaking, MG34s I guess could be like hip fired. I don't know how realistic that was. Like,
So actually haven't been I did not fire an MG34. I'm not from World War II. I would be
you look
quite
great
old
if you
I
were.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
You know, with regards to machine guns, contrary to popular belief, like portrayed in the media, televisions, movies, and stuff like that, video games as well, certain machine guns are very, very portable. It's one of the reasons why it's the U.S. Army, for example, held on to the M60 for 40 years. Because you could shoulder fire it really easily, and there are photos of German soldiers both hip firing and even shoulder firing MG34s from, I believe it was the Battle of France. But the big caveat to that is it was like one of those, like, in case of emergency things. Like, it wasn't taught specifically for that.
Right. And would it have been accurate? Like, I understand it being like portable, like, yeah, you can throw a shoulder strap on and then run around with it. But would it have been accurate? Like, am I going to be able to actually control that recoil at 50 meters, at 100 meters or something like that?
You're not. See, it's also like one of the other big misconceptions, like real combat, it's such a really weird to explain to people.
Right.
It's accurate enough. Like, the entire point is
you only got to hit one.
You hit and kill the dude, great, but you're mainly going for suppression with that.
Yeah.
You're looking to suppress your enemy, because if they're not throwing bullets at you, then you're not going to take casualties either. So it's one of those things where, if you don't have enough, you get opened up on from, whatever range, you see the muzzle flash, you just point your shit at it and just pull the trigger and get them to stop firing at you, which isn't true to shooting games, first person shooting games, third person shooting games in general, where it's just like, oh, I just 180 flick, MLG no scope the guy in the face,
right,
which is a thing that does happen even in Enlisted too.
Yeah, it's just weird. I wonder if they should add some sort of, like, heavier recoil for hip firing, like encourage players to use their LMGs for more stable positions. Because I don't know. It just feels to me like the weapons should have, like, I don't know, like, the different types of weapons should have strengths and weaknesses, right? Like, SMGs should be really good up close and pretty bad at range. LMGs should be pretty good at range, but, and from a stable position, but should be not very good when you're firing it from the hip, right? Like, I understand it being an emergency or something like that, and some guy comes up on you and you just start spraying. Like, obviously, if someone's 5 feet away and you start blasting with an LMG, he's gonna die, and that's fine. But, like, the way it works now, I feel like there's not a whole lot of downside with LMGs.
No, there really isn't. I mean, they're probably one of the better, like pick a campaign. LMGs dominate infantry combat. You have
all of them.
The MG30 for the Axis on Moscow. You have the Madsen, and you have the DPs for the Soviets and all their campaigns. BAR is just a oversized, automatic
SMG,
rifle.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, it's a full automatic Garand.
And I'm fine with certain, I don't think that every LMG should be like that, right? But I think that the LMGs that are generally, light LMG, like the LMGs that like the MG34, right? The ones that were specifically used to be fired or specifically designed to be fired from a stable position most of the time. I feel like that, that makes sense to be sit it down, brace it down, and fire, or at least crouch or something like that. Well, like a BAR, I don't have a problem with someone running into a building with a BAR. Like that's what the gun was made for, right?
The BAR and Bren. The Bren was actually the most accurate light machine gun in World War II. Which is terrifying when you think about that. Though like the Bren to a point you could control to fire it like a rifle. The BAR is a rifle. I mean, it's in its name. Yeah. So those are a little bit different. And it also brings up a great question of like, what's the M1919A6 going to be like, or what the RPD-44 is going to be like when they eventually come out.
Yeah.
Or if you think a little bit beyond that, what's the Vickers K going to be like in Tunisia?
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I just I don't know, maybe they could introduce, you mentioned suppression before, and that's one thing that's always kind of confused me with Enlisted, is that there actually isn't any kind of suppression mechanic for like firing, like for gunfire.
Right. That is a complete thing that is missing in the
which
game.
Is weird, right? Like you would expect that, even Red Orchestra, I mean, Battlefield to an extent has suppression, doesn't it? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't remember.
Certain Battlefields do. I forget what. I think it was Battlefield 3 they introduced it in. God, it's been forever since I played the Battlefield game.
I think that some sort of basic suppression mechanic that just, maybe it's exclusive to LMGs. Maybe that's the benefit of LMGs is that they can, put down actual suppression, and maybe it makes like AI soldiers stop shooting. So this is going to circle back, right? Because we've mentioned before that the AI are the gimmick of Enlisted. The AI are the fun, they're the interesting thing about Enlisted. And I realize that people play lone soldiers, but I mean, I think the vast majority of people who are coming to Enlisted are playing Enlisted because you get to control an AI squad.
Well, we apologize right now if you like to play lone soldiers.
Yeah, if you like to play lone soldiers,
talking about it very much.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about
this podcast.
Yeah, sorry. I think some of these things apply to it, but I don't know. I would just say, like, I would like to see more things kind of working with the AI, more mechanics kind of integrated with the AI, like a suppression mechanic on AI, where if you're shooting at them with an LMG, even if you're not hitting them, maybe they go prone and they stop shooting, or they become less accurate, right? I know we talked on stream a little bit about having new classes, like having a class that's like an officer class or something like that you can have one in some squads or something like that, and they make your AI shoot more accurately or shoot faster or something like that. Like that'd be kind of interesting, Did
the Soviets get a commissar?
Yeah, in the Soviets, if the AI step backwards, then the officer shoots them. But yeah, just whatever it is, I feel like that could be moderately interesting. Just some things that work a little bit more with the AI, just instead of the AI just being these, I mean, effectively they're resources, right? They're resources for the player.
They are meat popsicles.
Yes, they are. They are. They're big sacks of meat that you like possess and take control of when you die or when you run out of ammo, and then you leave your old sack to die horribly.
What are you talking about? That's when I pull out the axe and run into the objective and start axing people.
There you go. Anyway, we've talked a lot about gameplay and guns and things like that. So let's go to the next big thing that I'm sure everybody is expecting at some point, which is planes and vehicles, just in general. On the game.
This was coming.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that everyone generally, I think that everyone for the most part, at least the vast majority of players, understand or at least agree to an extent that planes are a little too much right now, to say the least.
Oh boy, how do you open up this entire? This is not like just one can of worms. This is like a shelf full of cans of worms.
So let's start with just planes. Let's not talk about tanks, because I think tanks have some issues, but not nearly as much. So planes. So first off, the I don't know if you saw the patch today, but they actually released a patch today that bombs no longer team kill. I don't know if you
Well,
if you see that.
now the winds can't troll you through the middle of the game.
That's bullshit.
When you squad
Actually,
up with them, we can't troll each other.
I specifically remember some times of me suicide bombing you guys on purpose. So I can't do that on it anymore, which is very lame.
Yeah, very lame.
Yeah. Yeah, I actually, Darwin said in chat, I do it to him. I do it. I do it to people on purpose.
He's done it to me too.
I've done it to everybody. It's fun. It's when, well, I mean, what do you want from me? Whenever we queue up with like 4 people that are all max rank and we're just stomping, which we already talked about before, I get bored, man. I get so bored. I'm just sitting there like, and everyone else is getting all the kills, and it's just I'm left out to dry, and I gotta kill something. So if it's gotta be my team, it's gotta be my team, you know?
Right, but planes in general, oof,
Yeah.
man. Who would have thought for those of us who played in closed beta that planes were going to be the biggest problem?
Yeah, I don't think many people did. I really don't think that many people thought that planes were going to be as big of a problem as they are. I don't think that Darkflow thought it.
I take that back. Planes bombing your team 10 seconds into the match finally got fixed.
That's true.
What we thought was wrong with planes.
Yes.
Originally in closed beta. Like, oh, once they stop the planes from killing everybody at the beginning of the match, planes will be fine.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And it was for a little bit. I mean, I think everyone kind of generally agreed that the A20 was pretty insane and that those bombs just nuking a bunch of people was pretty crazy. But I don't know, it was this kind of thing where I don't think that anyone realized just how insane it was because it just didn't happen that often. You didn't have that many players that had that stuff. But now that you have like every match has at least 3 or 4 players that have P47s and have A20s, and it's just like the match just gets thrown into this like who can bomb the other team for longer.
And it makes it defending objectives almost impossible when you know, like you're on Normandy and it's like, oh, here comes the A20 or here comes the P47 to kill everybody on the objective point every what is it? It's about, I think I timed it once. I can't remember. It's like 20 something seconds to get to the respawn, the rearm point.
It's not that long. It's about every minute and a half that they're going to be dropping those bombs. Because it's like you got to do your dive in and drop the bombs, and then you got to turn around and go back. But yeah, I mean, you're dropping those bombs about every minute. And so it's like, yeah, like the defenders, like it's so hard to defend against stuff like that. Because if it's an open objective and the guy drops the bombs, good luck. Like everyone on that point is dead. And suddenly the enemy team can just walk onto the objective. And unless you have a plane to do the same thing to them, you're not holding it.
And then it's the constant plane cycling. Like, oh no, I got shot down, or I flew into a tree, or I got, whatever happens. I flew into a building, which you like to do a lot, Quadro.
I do like to fly into buildings.
I
was gonna make an inappropriate joke there, but I won't.
I see where you were going, my man.
Yeah, I won't do that. Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, people they just suicide bomb, and then they like. It's crazy to me that people do this because it sounds like the most absolutely boring gameplay ever. But yeah, people spawn in planes, they drop bombs, they fly into the ground, they die, they spawn in their other plane that they have. They drop bombs, they fly into a building and die. And then they spawn as like a sniper team. Or, God forbid, they bought a bunch of extra like squad slots and they have another plane because some of the fighters.
Oh, now they're just playing War Thunder.
Yeah, and then they're literally just playing War Thunder. And they're just playing War Thunder killing infantry, which is like it blows my mind that's a thing that's happening. That's a play style, yeah. Like I don't mind people being pilots. Like I think that's fine. I think if people want to play pilots and they want to bomb the objectives and they want to be fighter pilots and things like that, and I think that's fine. But I think that right now it's way too low risk for the reward that you get.
Right. No, exactly. That's the biggest problem.
We have the same chair, by the way.
We do have the same chair.
That.
What a coincidence. Glitch in the matrix. So and there is no wrong idea on how to fix planes. there's so many different, ideas on how to fix it, but something definitely needs to be changed. Like, people are like, well, just buff AA, but the problem is people who build AA guns aren't shooting planes down with them, they're shooting infantry.
Yeah.
So adding the Wirbelwind or the M15 means that it's taking up a vehicle slot, and all the person does is shoot infantry and still gets killed by a plane.
Yeah, and it's and on top of that, like I get really bugged when people say stuff like that. Like, they're like, "Oh, just get in a fighter," or "Oh, just build AA." And I'm like, "Okay, so let's say you build AA and you shoot down a plane. What about the next plane? What about the next bomber that they spawn in? What about the next one?" Like,
yeah, and they just come in with so much altitude and speed, you can't stop.
Yeah,
like, how do you stop an ME-410 from coming in at over 400 kph in a dive?
Yeah, there's oftentimes no way, and even if you do, it's like, I mean, do you really expect people to sit on an AA gun the entire match? I mean, that's mind-bogglingly boring. Bogglingly boring. Bogging. It's just so boring for players. Like who's gonna sit on an AA gun for that long, just shooting down planes? I mean, it's making the assumption that, like, people are even going to spawn in the planes. I mean, what if you build the AA gun and you're sitting on it for 20 minutes looking for planes and nobody spawns in the plane? And then the second you get off, someone spawns on it and drops bombs and kills half your team. I mean, where's your reward for sitting on the plane or for sitting on the AA looking around for stuff? There isn't one. And when players are trying to grind and trying to level up and things like that, I mean, they're not going to sit on an AA gun, man. They're not even going to sit in a fighter. Like, that's just not going to happen.
Why would you even? Well, I think the issue with fighters is just because how dog shit they are at attacking ground targets too.
Yeah.
Like, if they buffed cannons to actually fire the right ammo at ground targets, it wouldn't be as bad. Like, being in a fighter would be somewhat rewarding because it's like, oh, there's no enemy plane, I'll go strafe something and kill, like a few infantry on every pass I do while waiting for an enemy plane to pop up.
Right. And that also rewards, like, marks, like marking targets and things like that from the ground, because that's one thing that I feel like is missing. Is it's like, I don't need marks when I'm flying a plane. I'm dropping 500-pound bombs. Like, why would I need a mark? Like, I might need a mark for a tank or something like that, but, like, I don't need a mark from my team to kill it.
After
drop
a few
the bombs.
Weeks with map knowledge, you know where the enemy tanks are going to be.
Exactly.
You're going to know where all the enemy infantry is. Why do you need some? That's why I always kind of chuckle internally when somebody types in, like, mark targets for air support. It's like, dude, just drop the bombs on the objective. You're going to kill people. Drop them on the objectives or about, like, 20 meters behind the objective, and you will kill 30 people. Or if you want to be super, super outrageous and hipster, look for tracer rounds or the tank cannon blasts and drop your bombs there.
Drop your bombs right there. Easy. Yeah, I agree. It's a little too easy, and I'm not sure what they can really do about it. And the other thing is that, like, the payloads for these planes, some of the planes are crazy. Like, I think the P-47 is kind of the biggest offender in regards to that, but the IL-2M is also really insane.
And what's scary about that? That's not even the P-47's full load.
Yeah, which is
like that's about half of what it actually.
Yeah, God forbid they add vehicle customization where you can take that load and then slap a 1,000-pounder on the bottom as well.
Yeah,
Jesus Christ.
1,000-pounder to 500-pounders and the 10 HVARs would be what it would normally fly over a battlefield with.
Oh man. Yeah, that would be that's horrifying to say the least. So I think that these giant payloads and you just instantly rearm them. Whew, that
is the that hurts my soul.
Yeah, just instantly getting everything back and then being able to do it again. I really am curious if the devs think that if they think that that's an acceptable thing, because we've had no info. I mean, the P-47's been out for, what, 3 months at this point? Something like that?
3 months?
2 months? 2.5 months? Something like that. It's been a while.
Probably closer to 3 months than it has been out.
The PE-8 needs to be in the game.
Oh, the thing, the Soviet bomber with the The 5,000
Yeah.
pound bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Fab 500 or
Just
whatever.
just drop that. Just drop that in a point and then crash. That doesn't even kill everybody. That just crashes everybody's games. But we'll
that is definitely, planes are such a huge issue, man.
Yeah. And I mean, I've mentioned it before, my idea for fixing them. I don't think I put it up on YouTube, so I'll say it. But I think that if you went back to the rearm station with your plane, it should just kick you back to the spawn menu. And then your plane, your little squad thing says like rearming, 2 minutes or whatever.
Yeah, and you can maybe get like an extra like 100 XP or something for successfully flying away with your plane or something.
Yeah, actually, that would be a good
in War
idea.
Thunder.
Yeah. That would be nice. Just give a little bonus XP. It makes the infantry combat be the focus again. You can make it to where if you get shot down, then it has a repair time as well. Planes with lighter bomb loads have faster rearm times, so you can get back in them.
So like the P-47 would reload in like 5 minutes, and like the P-51 would reload in like 2 or something. I could see something like that definitely working out.
And then the big thing is that it would make fighters pretty bad. And I'm not sure how. I guess if you buffed cannons and then incorporated cannons a little bit more, that would be nice. Or if there was a suppression mechanic, that could be cool too, like we were discussing before. Because the P-51 has eight 50 cals on it. Like, you strafe the ground with that thing, any infantry nearby is going to be horrified. So that could be a useful thing, right?
It was P-51s that shot up a lot of the supply trucks and trains and a lot of the other non-armored vehicles in Normandy.
Yeah. And maybe if we get some lighter vehicles, they could be more relevant. Fighters could be more relevant for strafing ground targets. But I still think that even if you incorporated some sort of basic suppression system,
feels bad for the premium BF-109 with the big cannon on it.
Oh my god, dude! That genuinely upsets me because, that's borderline false advertising. That plane says that it has armor piercing rounds. That and you're talking about the one in Berlin, right?
Yeah, the one in Berlin.
Yeah, it says that it comes with armor piercing rounds, like, to deal with ground targets. That shit is not ground, like, that is not armor piercing rounds. If I can't go through the side of a T-34 at a 0-degree angle, that ain't armor piercing rounds, man. I can tell you that for sure. So, yeah, that's borderline false advertising in my opinion. Yeah, rip G14 buyers for sure, dude. Luckily, I got mine for free. I feel bad for anybody who paid for that.
Same thing with the premium Soviet one, the Air Cobra.
Yeah, the King Cobra. Yep. Although the King Cobra does not specifically say that it has armor piercing rounds, which is why I went for the G14. And if it's HE rounds, then that's fine. But don't tell me that it's I was excited. I was like, dude, I get to shoot some tanks with this cannon. That's super fun. That feels to me like a lot more skillful than trying to drop bombs,
Yeah, and imagine if the version of the ME410 with the 50mm cannon eventually gets added into the game.
See, that would be fun.
That would be wild.
That would be super fun to play around with. But
because it's funny, the ME410 in game actually has the cannon modeled, but it just doesn't have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got the port for it.
Yep. They ran out of ammo.
Yeah,
the Germans are out of ammo.
Shocker, the Germans are out of ammo in Berlin.
Yeah. So, yeah, again, I think that everyone generally agrees that planes are in a bad spot. I think planes are actively making Normandy awful. And it's starting to creep into Berlin as well. Just a little bit. But Berlin has more cover. So you don't see it nearly as much.
Berlin also has cap points that are inside of things that kind of sometimes stop planes from murdering you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Sometimes is a great. Yeah. So let's get through the last of the I guess we're technically still state of the game, but last little gameplay part here with tanks. Specifically, I guess talking about the jumbo. Should the jumbo really be in Normandy? Does it need to be in Normandy? These other tanks in the game, Yeah, I don't know. Do you find problems with tanks? I mean, there's some minor problems with tanks that I find, not nearly as much with planes.
I wish tanks didn't get stuck literally on anything.
That's true.
Like
Yeah,
it's a tank.
yeah. Panthers get stuck in potholes.
There's the trees that are on certain Berlin maps that get wedged underneath your tank and just stop your tank dead.
Yep. Yep. Pretty ridiculous.
Yep.
Um,
The inconsistency of tank ammunition
yeah.
is, I think, a huge problem too.
Yep. And oftentimes tank ammo like doesn't make any sense. It like doesn't do enough damage. Like the Panther, for example, like I don't get why the T-34-85 is able to like seriously compete with the Panther. You know? Like it feels like oftentimes the T-34 is able to just like insta kill a Panther, and I don't know. From my experience in War Thunder, as someone who plays with T-34-85s, that is not the case. If I roll up to a Panther and its front armor is facing me, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah, from what I understand, and this is, one of those things that nobody can really have irrefutable proof of, is from what I understand, is Darkflow is using a much older model of
Or the
War Thunder's
physics.
mechanics. Yes.
Yeah.
Is from what I understand.
Well, hopefully they update that and make that a little bit better, because it does feel odd that it feels odd that oftentimes you have to shoot a tank several times. Like you have to shoot a T-34 several times to get it to detonate. And with how fast you can change seats in the game, it's like sometimes it doesn't really work. And then also, of course, the turret bug is very frustrating. But that just makes things. I don't blame them for that, because I blame the devs, but like that's a bug, like that'll get fixed. That's not part of the core gameplay.
Yeah, and we don't actually know how like serious in the code that bug is either.
Yeah.
Because people are like, why didn't they fix it yet? And it's like, man, we don't know how easy it is for them to replicate it, because I could go matches without saying it, and then there's a match where it's like every tank has it. Like there's no rhyme or reason to why there's the turret bug.
Apparently, Dahlman said that tanks and tank damage models are unfinished, according to a live stream from a while back, which makes sense.
That does make a lot of sense,
and hopefully that makes things a little bit better in the future. But yeah, it is quite frustrating for Panthers to not, like, I don't know. I feel like a Panther should just be dominating T-34s. Like
they did in the closed beta.
That's true. They did in the closed beta, which is weird that they changed something. Although I do think that there's a huge issue with the vehicles that get put into the game are really weird. It's very strange that they apparently the turret bug was in War Thunder a while back. Interesting.
That is not shocking.
Yeah. But yeah, the vehicles that get put into the game are really weird. I don't know why the Jumbo exists. I don't see why they didn't just do 75 Sherman into 76 Sherman. Like, I feel like that would have been a lot more fair, right? Like, yeah, the 76 outguns a Panzer IV, but like, a Panzer IV could still deal with it. like a Panzer IV like against the Jumbo right now is so rough. Like, you're borderline invincible.
Right. I mean, it's one of those weird design decisions that neither me, you, or the rest of the community really understand.
Yeah.
Which is just wild. It's, on the similar light of the test range had all these vehicles that aren't added into the game a few weeks ago, and now they're gone. Like, why weren't they added in at earlier levels, like the M8 Greyhound or the Stug, or trying to think, the 76 millimeter Sherman? You could come up, it's like they had better alternatives in our perspective, but it's like, this is why a developer Q&A would be great. Like, why did you put the Jumbo in?
Yeah, and I think they said that it was for balance reasons, so I guess they just thought that the Americans needed the Jumbo, although I find that hard to believe. And then with Berlin, it's the same thing. Like, I don't think that the T-34-85, like, that thing going up against a Panzer IV is not a fair fight. Like the T-34-85 is going to dominate a Panzer IV. Like nothing, right? So I don't get why they didn't just do the T-34 like 76, right? Like just like a normal T-34 going up against a Panzer IV. That seems like a pretty fair fight. And then you upgrade it to the 85.
That would completely be a fight of who's seen who first.
Yeah, which is fine.
76 right? millimeter Sherman versus the Panzer IV.
You know, with it and with it being, you know, urban combat and stuff like that, like sure, it's fine. And then you have the 85 to fight the Panther, right? But now we have the T-34-85, which gets upgraded to the T-34-85 with a little bit more armor, like,
and a bit better gun too.
Yeah, slightly better gun, which is just like, I don't know.
Fifth crew member goes a long way too.
That's true. But even still, it's like not a very exciting upgrade. And then of course you get the tank destroyers, which are just like, why are these in the game? Like, I have no idea why that tank, why those vehicles are in the game. Yeah, the tank destroyers.
SU-85 and the Panzer IVs/70.
Yeah, I have no idea why those things exist in an urban environment, let alone, like, I don't know why they exist in the game, let alone an urban environment. Like, I guess I could see like a Hetzer in Normandy. Were they used in Normandy? Wherever, it doesn't matter. Like a tank destroyer in Normandy I could see, versus like, but in the urban environment of Berlin, like, how does that make any sense? You know, like, it just gets killed. Like, it just dies.
Yeah, I mean, historically, when the Soviets brought Su-85s to Berlin, a lot of them were knocked out.
Yeah, because you're so close. Like, the strength of those things is being able to sit far back and snipe stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, the armor losses for the Soviet army in Berlin are absolutely horrific.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's just yikes.
Yikers.
When yeah. I mean, they tried to push into Silo Heights with like IS-2s and IS-152s, and even those were being knocked out reliably by the Germans, and they just decided, well, we're just not gonna assault Silo Heights. We'll go around it.
Yeah, I think an IS-1 would have been fine against like a I don't even know what the German. I don't think a King Tiger would make much sense, but like an IS-1 versus, I don't know off the top of my head. I mean, Tigers, but were there very many Tigers left even at that point?
Tiger ones?
Yeah, Tiger ones. Tiger ones.
There are some photographs of, I believe there's the famous Tiger one that was knocked out at the Brandenburg Gate. So there was at least a Tiger in
yeah, and
Berlin.
I mean, it would make sense for there to be some, although probably not many. So I mean, I guess you could have done IS-1 and then a Tiger, I suppose. That would have been fine. But regardless, yeah, it just seems really strange, and I'm not sure if Darkflow is willing to go back and change those campaign, like the stuff that's in those campaigns. We haven't seen them do it since open beta, because in open beta we had a lot of stuff that did get swapped around. You know, like
Rip Auto 5 shotgun.
Yeah, exactly. Like the most famous of it being the Auto 5 shotgun was what, it was at level like 5? Was it level 5 early on? I can't remember.
I think it was like either level 5 or level 7.
Yeah, something like that. It was really early
for the US.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see if they swap things around. They haven't done it since the game launched. I don't know if they're willing to change things around. I think there's a lot of things in the game that would benefit a lot from being moved around in the tech trees, and I don't think you're gonna like make people mad. You know, like if you move a gun definitely around, like just give whatever guns they had before, give them an equal amount of the new gun or the new tank. If it's a tank, it's even better. Like, you don't have to worry about it at all.
Right. I mean, you know, it's just like, you know, when you talk about developer decisions and stuff like that, it's, you know, another one that makes people, you know, scratch their head and be like, why is the Thompson level 29?
Yeah. And I've talked about that extensively. And I don't know. I've seen some screenshots of them saying that everything is market driven, like all their decisions are market driven, but I do not know how. It doesn't make sense to me. The Thompson being at level 29 does not seem like a market driven thing to me.
One of the most iconic World War II submachine guns. The people would really love this if you know it was level 29.
Because no one is out here.
Man.
No one out here is buying their way to level 29 with gold. No one is doing that, because that, I mean, it's literally like $50 a level. I mean, no one is. The amount of people doing that are tiny. That is not a reliable source of income.
Whale noise is intensified.
Yeah, right. Like that's an understatement. So I think that like putting it at level 10 to 15 ish, where you're gonna catch those people who are like, oh man, I really want to use the Thompson. I'll get a premium account so I can grind faster to get the Thompson. Because the thing about it being at level 29 is that people aren't gonna go, oh, it's level 29. Let me buy like 6 months worth of premium to grind my way to the Thompson. No. People are going to go, oh, and then they're going to uninstall the game. Like, and then they're going to go play hella loose. Like,
oh, I guarantee there is at least a handful of people that were like, yeah, the Thompson's out, and they load into Enlisted all excited that they get to use the, and they're like level 15, and then they see it at level 29, and it's just like,
yeah,
wow, this
because
sucks.
Even with premium, the grind past level like 20 gets to be pretty hardcore. Like it's several games per match. I mean, even when I was doing my premium squad review, and I was doing matches where I was getting upwards of 50,000 XP a game. I mean, that is still 3 matches to level up, which isn't that many, but you have to remember that I have premium account and I'm running all premium squads. So I am getting double battle XP, which is then getting doubled, which is then getting multiplied by battle awards. So getting like, no one out there is getting 50,000 XP consistently.
Yeah, and even more so if you're a free-to-play player.
Oh yeah, if you're a free-to-play player, I think the average is probably in the ballpark of 10 to 15. For like long matches, if not less.
For like an invasion match, yeah. Like,
yeah.
I even know what a free-to-play player would get for like a conquest map that's over in like 8 minutes.
Yeah, which unfortunately I'm not allowed to make another account, so I can't even do a free-to-play run, which is very, very annoying to me.
Ugh.
Yeah. I wanted to do that. I wanted to do a whole series where it's all free to play, just to kind of like show people, hey, you can do this. Like you can play the game free to play. Like it's not pay to win or anything like that, but can't do it. Not allowed to.
That would be a very interesting POV to actually see as a completely free to play experience. I think it would be eye opening for a lot of people on both sides of the fence.
Yep. But anyway, so that's tanks. We talked about tanks. We talked a little bit about progression, some of the issues in the game. Oh, one last thing that I want about progression. Some people have mentioned wanting to do like some sort of like War Thunder-esque progression system where the more you use a squad, you unlock new guns for that squad. How do you feel about something like that? Like, so for example, you have your assault squad, right? And if we already have the upgrade system for the assault squad of leveling up and getting new squad members and stuff like that. How do you feel about leveling up that squad and then unlocking new guns for that squad? Do you think that would work? Do you think that would be too awkward, too War Thundery?
It could work. The issue is you already got like, how does it fit in retroactively for people that have already grinded up a bunch of these guns and weapons and stuff like that?
Yeah.
Because it's not like, it sounds good. It's going to sound ridiculous. You just can't take the guns away from the people who have unlocked them already. And it's so weird because it's also such a disjointed way to do it because of the campaigns. Because like each campaign is its own different thing. If it was all rolled into like one grand campaign where it was like you start with like the early war stuff, like you start with the MP38 and then you can research the MP40 into like I don't know, spaghetti gun, you know, or something like that. It would probably work out a lot more fluidly. I feel while it's a good idea, it's just hard to fit into each individual campaign because then you even have the problem of what squads get what weapons at that point.
Yeah, I wonder if just like for the campaign, they could do something where you get, like they already have the thing where you get different squads, right? So you can have like your early squad, and then that guy, when you level him up and you play as that squad and you research the new guns or whatever. As you play more and you level up that squad, you get the new weapons, but then it caps out at a certain point. And so they have access to, like, they start out with the M3, then they get the M3A1, and then they get the I don't even know any other SMGs, like the Sten or something, or maybe then they get like the Winchester shotgun, and then they get the Browning, and then you
Right.
have your next assault squad, and they start out with the, I don't know, something, whatever it is, some SMG. Maybe they start out with the Sten or whatever it is, and then
Right,
it
and it
levels
could be a
up.
British squad, and then you get the access to the British weapons because
Yeah,
you unlock the British squads
exactly. And
and
then
stuff like that.
they slowly level up, and through the campaign is how you get access to those different squads. But then to get the different guns and stuff, you play through those squads themselves. And maybe that would limit the amount of like shitty unlocks that I feel like you get a lot of the time. Right? Like I feel like
Right.
you get a lot of like unlocks in the game that are just like,
Because
I don't care about a
progression,
flamethrower. Like,
right? Because campaign progression is completely based around like what is the biggest pure power spike you
yeah,
get in a campaign level? Like, what is it like whenever you lock your first like actual tank, and then the next one would be your bomber,
yep,
and stuff like that. And then like machine guns, Axis FG-42, MG, the MGs and stuff like that.
yeah. It often feels like a lot of the systems in the game, like the spawn system, the progression system, the campaign system, the upgrade system. It's like all these different parts of the game exist, but they're almost too simple. Like they're so simple that they are abusable, or that they just don't quite work. They're not as complex and as they're not as thought out as they kind of need to be, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it is a very simple system. I mean, a lot of the systems in the game are very unidimensional in a lot
Yeah,
of aspects.
yeah. All right. Well then let's move on to the next topic. Just like future stuff, things that we want to see in the future. Be
Oh,
it
my favorite
campaigns.
topic.
Yeah, there
My
you go.
favorite topic.
So you obviously having a degree in history and specifically a lot about
Correct.
World War II and stuff. What would be some interesting campaigns that you would want to see that are also like very unique, right? Because I know a lot of people have like talked about like the Winter War and how they want like the
Okay.
Winter War to come, but I don't know. I'm just kind of like, wouldn't that just be Moscow? I mean,
Right.
like would it be Moscow
I
without
would say
PPSHs? Like,
if you want to talk about terms of purely interesting, I can give you a few. I think Warsaw Uprising would be very interesting, where you have the Polish Home Army against
yeah,
the Germans
I think so
in
too. Yeah,
Warsaw.
yeah,
Would be
Polish
very
campaign
interesting.
would be cool.
I don't know how the balance would work. I mean, yes, the Polish Home Army did actually capture a panther and use it for a few days inside the city till it broke down. Um, I don't know how that would work out as far as balance, because that would be a very like asymmetrical type balance where like the Polish Home Army maybe gets like, I don't know, it would be weird because it's like the Germans would have vehicles but the Polish Home Army wouldn't. Like, how does that work?
What about like an early Polish campaign, like the initial invasion?
Oh, early Poland could be very interesting to see too. A lot of people think Poland just rolled over on its back, but in truth be honest, Poland got invaded from two different directions.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot you can do there. Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be interesting. I know obviously a lot of people said Pacific, and I think a Pacific campaign would be very fun.
I think early Pacific would be interesting, even though I know like Iwo Jima, Tarawa, Okinawa is what a lot of the population would want. I think doing early Pacific like Guadalcanal,
Hmm.
or even some of the fighting in Southeast Asia, where you
Yeah,
had like the Dutch colonial troops fighting the Imperial Japanese, or even like Hong Kong.
yeah, yeah. Those, why late, or why do you think early instead of late? I mean,
I think because one of the things, especially for the Pacific, I think early is more. It's not, you have the issue of like Berlin, where the Imperial Japanese just
ah,
defend. Where like, yeah, Guadalcanal they defended, but you didn't have the overwhelming superiority of the U.S. Like the U.S. went to Guadalcanal really unsure how they would do against the Imperial Japanese Navy and Army. on Guadalcanal. You know, like they went there not even with Garands. The Marine Corps units that went there with Springfields and
Yep.
water-cooled MGs from World War One.
Yep. Yeah, that certainly would be interesting. I don't know. We'll see what they do. I mean, we know a Pacific campaign is more than likely coming. I mean,
Yes.
like they've openly stated that they are thinking about it. I don't think there's a world where that doesn't happen, assuming more campaigns after Tunisia happens. It's more of a question of when.
Right.
Um,
And if you want to do other interesting kind of campaigns or even just maps or stuff like that, Crete would be really interesting, where
Yeah.
you get the actual huge Fallschirmjäger jump into the island.
Well, I wonder if they'll just do like a whole Italian kind of campaign.
I would not play it.
You would not play an Italian campaign?
I would not. No, I would probably just either, if I do play it, I just play the Allies.
No spaghetti guns.
No spaghetti
Can't
guns.
do the spaghetti guns.
My soldiers are allergic to the objective.
Yeah, that would be I think an Italian campaign could definitely be cool. And get the actual, like, the Italians as like an actual force, because Tunisia is going to be the Panzer Corps, right?
Yeah, so supposedly Italians might show up as like a squad or a premium or something like that in Tunisia, from what people have told me. And then it's gonna be Das Africa Corps versus the British.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll see. I kinda have some reservations on what Tunisia can be, to be honest with you.
Yeah, Tunisia is going to be a weird one. I'm really excited for Tunisia. Oopsies. I'm really excited for Tunisia. I just feel like it's going to be hopefully a kind of breath of fresh air, because even though that Berlin is pretty different than the other campaigns, I feel like it's still like, even though it's different, it's still the same. You know, like there's new stuff, but a lot of it just feels like more of the same. Well, I feel like Tunisia has the potential of being very, very significantly different than anything we have in the game
right off
now.
the bat. I can tell you right now, I mean, if you know, and this is one of the things I think I pointed out to you a few nights ago or last night, was the fact that there should be no semi-automatic rifles in Tunisia.
Yep.
You know, it'll strictly be Lee Enfields versus K98s.
Yep, because the Germans didn't send anything, and then the Brits never made a semi-auto rifle.
Nope, they did not.
Yep.
So
yeah, and I think the tanks are going to be really interesting. It all in all, I think Tunisia is going to be a lot of fun. It's definitely my most anticipated campaign.
And the other big thing will also be air power in Tunisia. Will be interesting to see too.
Yeah.
Since hopefully we'll probably see. I know you want to see the Mosquito with the big cannon.
Oh my god, yeah, the 57 millimeter cannon.
57 millimeter, yeah.
Just annihilating things. That'd be fun.
That would be very interesting.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see. We said it yesterday. We were talking a little bit about this, but the tank setup, I think, would be, you know, Valentine, Crusader, Matilda, Churchill. Seems like a pretty reasonable thing for the Allies.
Yeah, if they wanted to go with a pure Brit lineup, yes.
Yeah, either that or Valentine, and then like a Lend-Lease Sherman or something like that over the Crusader. But I think Valentine makes sense as a starting one. I really hope they don't do like the early Stuarts. Right, that would be very annoying.
The M3 Stuart instead of the M5.
Yeah, that would be very annoying. Just because it's like, we already got that. I don't want another one. And the Germans, I mean, what did the Germans have? I mean, they were mostly Panzer 2s and 3s, right?
And
did they have 4s?
Yeah, of course they had.
Well, they had 4s. Okay,
they actually. North Africa was the first appearance of the Panzer 4s with the long 75s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
The Panzer F1.
Yeah, and then I guess they would get probably like the Churchill against Tiger, I suppose. I don't know what the I mean, they didn't have anything to go against the Tiger, right? I mean, that was like a big deal, right?
Towed 17-pound anti-tank guns.
Yeah, there you go.
Was the answer for Tigers?
Yeah, because there weren't Fireflies yet, right?
Oh, F2. Gene corrected me on that. Right, it was the F2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it was. Yeah, I mean, even though the British Army knocked out Churchills with 6-pound cannons. I mean, Tiger 131 was famously knocked out by a Churchill.
That's true.
And
That's true.
the first Tiger was actually destroyed by a 6-pounder. I think it was actually Canadian 6-pounder killed it. Shot it in the side.
But then again, we don't have those big 8. I don't think we're gonna be building 17-pounders. Like, I think that the built AT will probably be the 6-pounder.
The man portable 17-pounder called Explosive Pack will be there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now, when did the Firefly go into service?
Firefly was a post North Africa,
right? How post though? Because the Jumbo was also post Normandy,
right?
I don't know if you know off the top of your head.
Wouldn't know off the top.
Would it be unreasonable to see a Firefly in Tunisia? Probably. But
I mean, Darkflow can do whatever.
I mean, yeah, I guess they can do whatever the hell they want at this point.
Sherman Jumbo. I believe it was 1943 is when the Shermans when the Brits were like, let's when they decided to do pineapple pen with the 17-pounder in the Sherman.
Let's just slap this giant AT gun on this Sherman, whatever, man. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, oof. Apparently they're not that great from I've never been inside of one, but watching like the Chieftain's hatch and him crawl around it, he was not a fan of the thing. It's just one of those weird things where it's like, I think if Tigers are in Tunisia in the first 26 levels, a lot of people are gonna play
Germany
just to play a Tiger, man.
Italian Firefly with APDS. Jesus. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know I mean, it just doesn't sound like they have anything. I guess it would have to be the Tiger versus the Churchill, but then the Churchill's just going to be getting dominated. Just absolutely trashed on.
Yeah,
right?
it would be so weird to add, like, cuz I mean, yeah, there wasn't a lot of Tigers in Tunisia. There was one battalion of Tigers,
Yeah.
So yeah, and the other interesting thing is they were usually escorted around with Panzer III's.
Right, you were telling me about that, yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't want the Tigers to, when they fired their gun, they reload so much slower, so they gave them Panzer III's so infantry wouldn't overrun them.
Yeah, and it's the Churchill would have only been the Churchill 3, correct? With the little 6-pounder or the 3-pounder? 2-pounder, 3-pounder? I don't remember.
No, they eventually by the time of later Tunisia when the Tiger showed up, they had Churchills with the 6-pounders.
Okay, so they had the Churchill,
Churchill
7s. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well then maybe it'll be the Churchill 7 with the 6-pounder, and then I don't know. Maybe there's a world. I've never tested it. I don't know if a Churchill can front pin a Tiger.
Because it's gonna be weird for like the German armor lineup. Because what do you go? You go what Panzer IIIL or something like that to Panzer IV F2 to Tiger. That's a weird jump.
Maybe Darkflow will just say screw it, and we'll get just Black Princes everywhere, just Churchill Black Princes running around, just like dominating everybody.
If they really want to go with the overpowered choice, they get the Kiwi tank, the Bob Simple.
The what now?
The Bob Simple tank?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, it was like a tractor that they poured like concrete blocks onto and stuff like that, and stuck some machine guns in. It's the most overpowered thing in the world, man.
That's not. Wait, that was the Brits that did that?
Oh, the Kiwis, the New Zealanders.
Oh, the New Zealanders. Okay, gotcha.
New Zealanders, yeah.
I was about to say that sounds like some British engineering along with the Challenger with no MG.
The Aussies and the New Zealanders got told when World War II kicked off, because they were supposed to get a bunch of tanks from England when World War II got really serious and the British Expeditionary Force got ran off of France at Dunkirk. The Brits were like, "Hey Kiwis, hey Aussies, you guys can't get any tanks anymore. We need them back here."
Speaking of France, what about a Battle of France?
Battle of France.
I think Battle of France would actually be great.
Super interesting. Because I mean, some of the French weapons are in the game. The Maz 36.
Yeah, exactly.
The Lapel, missing a few other weapons.
And I feel like it's early enough war for the Germans that it's very different. I mean, like, I mean, they wouldn't even, a lot of the core weapons that you see in the other campaigns wouldn't have existed at that time, right?
Infantry wise, see, that's the big problem with the Germans in
I mean,
no
obviously you
matter
have Car
what
98s and stuff,
campaign.
but
Yeah, it was like, ah, like how many times you want to unlock the MP38 and the MP40?
yeah,
You
yeah,
know, because you'll have the MP38. The MP40 was around, but it's not in huge numbers. I
yeah.
believe it was issued to mostly vehicle crews at the time, and it was like one MP40 for the 5 of you guys.
Good
Whoever's
luck.
not dead, grab it and jump out the vehicle. Even though they could, there was an infantry modification kit for the MG34s they could take out too and drag with them if they had enough time. I probably wouldn't do that if my tank was on fire though, and just grab the MP40 with Hans and just be like, okay, you know. So
Hans,
like
you get the
France,
ammo, I get the gun.
yeah. French would also have, I think it's the Hotchkiss MG, which is pretty neat to see. And
Chauchets. Just give him Chauchets.
that squad, the premium
It's
machine
really
gunner squad
good.
for the Soviets, man.
Underestimated, dude.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Any gun can kill another person. It's just the fact, in hindsight, looking at that now, you imagine the dude who get killed by that nowadays. You know, his family's like ashamed and has to like live in a house outside the city. Like, dude, you can't live here.
Yeah, I think the Battle of France would be really interesting because the French tanks were actually pretty solid tanks at that time, right? It was more just that they were incredibly disorganized.
There was a few issues on par with the German tanks.
Yeah.
The French were better, like tank for tank, right?
Yeah.
But the problem is you know, it's not like War Thunder where it's like, because my tank can shoot, you know, through 130 millimeters and your tank can shoot through 120 millimeters, my tank's better.
Yeah.
It goes more so German troops, you know, the German panzer troops were trained much better.
Mm-hmm.
The political system of France at the time severely hampered the French military.
Yeah. Which none of that we'd see in game, but so I think it'd be interesting for sure.
You know, it's I remember reading a book about the Battle of France, and the troops had brand new like Char B1s, and the troops didn't know how to fill them up with gasoline. Like they didn't know where the gas tank was on the thing. Like you imagine being at war, being like, somebody show us how to fill up our tanks full of gas so we can go fight. It's not a good look to start a war.
Yeah, it would yeah, in game you don't have those problems, which is nice. So I feel like
yes.
I feel like it would be interesting. I think it'd be a fun campaign.
Yes. And the other big thing, which most of the chat and everybody knows and stuff like that, the way the French divvied up their tanks in little, like, this infantry unit gets a tank, this infantry unit gets a tank, and then it gets attacked by like an entire, you know, panzer division, and
they get slaughtered.
Like 2 tanks.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
You know, which would be very cool. Yeah, I think France would be really cool to see, because you could do like a Maginot Line like defense where the Germans have to attack like the fortified positions, and the French could like man, you know, like machine gun bunkers and cannon. You know,
reverse D-Day.
There.
Reverse
D-Day.
Yeah, and then, you know, of course you have the Ardennes, and can you even have a Paris map? Like, I feel like there's a huge variety of stuff that you can really do with it. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, you can.
A lot of people don't know, as the British were leaving, it was actually a French army actually stood at Dunkirk and surrendered, along with, I believe it was like a regiment of Indian troops. From the Commonwealth also stayed behind.
Yep, very cool.
And you only see the French troops in the first like 5 minutes of the movie Dunkirk.
That's one thing. I kind of hope in Tunisia we get more Commonwealth troops. Like, do you think it'll just be the Brits?
I really hope we get the Commonwealth troops, man.
Because it was the Australians that were actually in Tunisia, right?
Yes, it was actually a lot. There was a whole army of Aussies that were trapped in Tobruk. Yeah. Like, is weird that entire thing.
And they like pissed the Germans off because they were like, and they couldn't get through. Like the Germans could not break the Aussies there. Yeah.
Well, it's, you know, that's a combination of the terrain. You know, it's flat open. They could see German attacks, you know, assembling kilometers away, like, oh, here they come, and you just rush all your troops there
Yeah.
too, and it's like, and
And the
that
Royal Engineers also.
yes, the minefields and
I wonder.
fortifications that they laid.
That's kind of cool because the Royal Engineers were like that. That was like their thing, was like fortifications, right? I was like, they were known for that more so than like the American engineers or something like that.
So
I mean,
a lot of countries in World War II had what were known as like pioneers and
yeah,
like
combat
engineering
engineers.
units. Yeah. So the big thing about the British military, the Germans also had them too. The Storm Pioneers from like Company Heroes 2 are patterned off of them. They're some of the units were just regular bog standard combat engineering units, but then they had like sapper units were like the elite of the combat engineers. Those guys were the ones that were trained to like attack fortifications with like flamethrowers and like explosive satchel charges, and like you've seen at the beginning of Saving Private Ryan, like Bangalore torpedoes and stuff like that were also used too.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if like with the Royal Engineers and stuff, if we'll see more kind of crazy defensive things, like more cool engineer fortifications. I think that would be neat.
Yeah, I think that would go a long way just in general for engineers to be more useful on the battlefield.
Yeah, because right now it's like, even with my I have like the premium engineer squad, I'm just kind of like, okay, well, I can build an MG42 nest that's gonna get shot and blown up. I can build an AA gun, which will get blown up, or I can build an AT gun, which will get blown up.
I think it would be really neat. Because it was an iconic German thing. Like, if the German engineers could build like an S mine field, it's like it lays like 6 or whatever arbitrary number, more than like 1, than what we have now.
And like a little
field, like a little like a square. Like, this is an S mine field.
Yeah.
And I think that would go a long way to make engineers a lot better. And I know S mines were later copied by everybody. S mines being the famous bouncing Betty that we all know, the little can that jumps up in the air at waist height. So that would be cool.
I'd like to see, there's tons of fortifications that I would like to see. Even I mean, imagine, this is kind of crazy, I don't think that they would do this, but imagine if you could just like build a trench, I guess they could do it if they did it above ground. They can't, they're not going to be able to do it where you can build it into the ground, but it'd be cool if you could build like a little...
Or even building like those sandbag bunkers that they make.
Yeah, they're literally modeled in game. Like, or like concrete bunkers, stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of cool stuff that they could do. That I do hope they do. They do. Gene said the Churchill Aviary.
Churchill Aviary.
Was the Aviary, did that exist in Tunisia?
I think that was not around for Tunisia.
What about the crocodile, the mighty Churchill crocodile? The savior of all of my Company of Heroes 2 games.
I know the crocodile was specifically designed for D-Day.
Do you know that was really?
1944. Yeah.
That
cool. Was because the British and the Americans, everybody was trying to come out with ideas on, well, if we can get troops on the beach, how do exactly we get over the Atlantic Wall?
Yeah.
So Churchill crocodile was one of those ideas of, let's just put a flamethrower on the Churchill and we'll just burn the Germans out of the Atlantic Wall.
Yeah, and let's carry all of the gasoline and fuel for the flamethrower on like a little rack behind the tank that we'll just carry with us.
Yeah, a little trailer.
Yeah, a little trailer. I'm sure that'll never get shot. My God.
Yeah.
The Churchill gun carrier would be cool too. Yeah.
Everybody used flamethrower tanks. They had the Soviets had a KV8, and they also had a T-34 that also shot flamethrower.
The KV8 was the flamethrower one, right?
Yeah, KV8.
Yeah, that's what it was called. And
then the Germans had, I believe, a Panzer II, a Panzer III, and the half tracks that shot flamethrowers. Oh, and the Hetzer. They actually had a flamethrower Hetzer.
Yeah, the Flame Hetzer. Yes, the legendary Flame Hetzer that drives me crazy in Company of Heroes 2. God. Yeah. Well, any other major campaigns, just like to kind of end stuff here? We've been going on for about an hour and a half here, although I think the
other campaigns would be interesting to see. I'm gonna shout out Gene. Maybe we could see the Brazilians in Italy.
Oh,
He would go nuts for that.
that would be cool. Yeah, I guess that's another good thing. Post-war campaigns.
Korea.
Korea,
would
yeah,
be very
Korea.
interesting.
That's what jumps to my mind too.
Mostly fought with World War II era and just after World War II era weapons would be very, very interesting to see, because that's where you would actually get, like your Pershings versus T-34-85s and IS-2s versus, everything's.
Yeah, which would be cool. Yeah, Korea. I'm not sure how the game would hold up past that though. Like, I don't know how the gameplay would work. I mean, honestly, maybe the game would play better in a more modern setting. Like, literally, maybe Enlisted would be a better game if it was Cold War. Because you don't have a lot of the gameplay. Like, you don't have to worry about LMGs being super dominant versus bolt actions, because nobody in the Cold War is using bolt actions. So, like, LMGs are really good, but so is an M16. Like,
I mean, there's a lot of wars, post World War II you could do. I mean, a lot of them would be pretty controversial if you added them. The Israel-Arab War, in 48. In Korea wouldn't be that controversial.
I haven't had a Korean War game.
No, Korea always gets forgotten about.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure in my high school we learned about the Korean War for maybe 2 days. So I don't even know. I have no idea about any of that shit. That would be I think the Korean War would be a lot of fun, would be really cool.
I know DeWins would be happy with Korea because he would have his MiGs versus F-86 Sabres. I think. Oh no, there was something that I did want to touch on, which was something I did not clear with you, but it's not a super hot take and stuff like that. I would say one of the things that kind of mystifies me is they make really great premium squads in some instances, like MCHA. Everybody knows I love the thing, right?
Me too.
Right. A lot of people love the
MCHA.
Me and you included. The problem is then they go and they make absolutely worthless premium units.
Yeah.
Like the Chaffee or the SKS 31 squad. Or no, there's one even worse. What's the Moscow SMG squad that nobody buys?
The Beretta one?
No. It's the Russian one, the Soviet one.
Oh, the one that is the PTK, something like that. PPT, yeah, Don.
PPT, yeah.
Yeah, like, that's what is terrible.
Like, why? This is not even worth even a penny or a shilling of what it should be.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. And then their pricing model is wild. Like the pricing models make absolutely no sense to me. Like, in my opinion,
$45 for the Chaffee.
Yeah, like in my opinion, $40 for the MCHA is asking a lot, but I think that the MCHA is a really fun tank and is maybe worth about, like, I would spend $40 for it, but I'm also like, I play this game for 4 to 5 hours every day. So, like, maybe the average Joe, maybe $30 is more reasonable for the MCHA, but, like, regardless, point being that, like, things just the prices don't make any sense. Or, like, the worst premium squads in the game are the planes, the specifically the Normandy planes, which are quite literally just recolors, like $50 for quite literally a recolor.
And for the American one, you get the unique pilot too, which is also I'm gonna say it is also a recolor.
Yippee! Like,
you get the Tuskegee Airmen, with that.
Like, it doesn't really add up, honestly. Their pricing, and like the Panzer 38T in Moscow, that thing's like what, $12, $13 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Very reasonably priced. Like, great tank, the BA-11, or the BA-12 or 11, whatever.
The Soviet Puma.
Yeah, the Soviet Puma. It's like $12. Great tank. Great premium squad. It's a fantastic premium squad. Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense why some things are just priced so expensively and some things are not. Or the Labelle squad I think is like $12.50.
Oh yeah, the Labelle squad, and the Labelle squad's actually really good
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, those squad, the Mosin M44L rifle is fantastic. It's the same. It's the Russian counterpart. So I don't understand why those are so unbelievably expensive.
I have no
or
idea
why
how the
they're.
Arasaka squad is though.
Oh
I don't
right,
know.
that does
I don't
exist.
know.
I've never
I
used that.
don't know anyone who has the Ara. Like I asked around it, like when they first. Did anybody?
Has
buy
to be.
the
It just
Arasaka
has
squad?
to be Enlightened. That's the only one.
Yeah.
Because I know he made a video on it, and I don't know if he bought him actually for it. He might have just said, "Hey, this exists." Yeah, I never see them. But yeah, it is really strange. I don't know if they're just like trying things out and seeing what is like
Did the market
acceptable.
research tell them like, oh man, Chaffee needs to be 45?
Yeah, that's mine. If there's someone at Darkflow who is a marketing research analyst or something like that, and they said, yeah, the Chaffee is $45, people will totally pay for that. They should be fired because there's no way that is like
yikes.
Just yikes. Like I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy and maybe the Chaffee is somehow the best selling premium squad, but I never see it. And it's terrible. Like I guess Dollins brings up a good point. He says that it's an excuse to say the game's not pay to win because the expensive stuff is shit. But but then the cheap stuff is the best stuff. Like the cheap stuff is really good. And I don't think very many people, I think most people think that premium squads are generally worse. I think there are a couple exceptions where some premium squads are really fucking good. The MG18, MG30, MG30. The MG30 is a good example of a squad that is just really, really powerful.
The Hyde squad in Normandy that you never see
Yeah,
anymore?
I don't consider those ones though, because those are founder packs. I actually think those should be OP because it's kind of like, you play in closed beta, you should get that little bonus.
And I mean, hey, there's even weapons that not even me or you even see anymore, like the guys who kickstarted Enlisted in like 2018 or 2016.
Yeah, what are those? What guns even are those?
I know the American one is the Springfield Air Service rifle.
Huh. Yeah, I've never seen that.
Yeah. It was really funny. It popped up right when OBT hit. Somebody got shot and killed by one, and they posted the picture on Reddit and was like, what is this gun? And nobody knew what it was. And it was like, oh shit, I remember those. Those were the Kickstarter guns.
Yeah, that's weird.
There were two. I forget what the German one was, but one of them is the Springfield Air Service rifle.
That's crazy. Yeah, I've never seen that. Never seen that.
Super duper rare. I seen it once in closed beta. I got shot and killed by one.
Yeah, it's like 4 guys running around with them, like 4 players in the entire like enlisted community, and they don't even play anymore.
And apparently, one of the other weird things is apparently if you got into a game with the devs, like people who were actually devs, would actually use them sometimes.
Well, they never play, as far as I know. Although I play on NA servers, and they're obviously
Oleg told us what the German one was. It's a K98 with the trench magazine.
Oh, I have seen that. I saw that in closed beta. I remember seeing one of those.
Thank you, Oleg.
Yeah,
I couldn't remember what it was.
Yeah.
I just remember the American one.
I just want to see some like weird like premium squads. If for those of you that haven't seen or seen me talk about them or seen my video on premium squads, I think premium squads first and foremost need to be balanced, and second need to be unique. If they're not unique, then why do you care? A great example of this is like the Chaffee. The Chaffee is just like it's not good, so it's not balanced, and it's not really that unique because
you have a Sherman. And
you have a Sherman
Stewart for 10 levels.
Exactly.
Sorry, 15 levels.
Yeah, it's not really that good. Or the MG30 is kind of this way, where it's not really that balanced, and it's not really that unique either. It's really just an MG18. Or the Bar Squad, thank you. Yeah, the BAR squad is a great example of that as well, where it's just kind of like, it's a BAR, and the Americans already have 6 of these. The German one is unique, because you don't get those.
The German
BAR is definitely unique.
Does the German BAR actually have more damage, but also more recoil or something like that?
I don't remember.
There is a slight difference between the two, if I remember.
Yeah, I don't quite remember. But anyway, I think that they need to be very unique. And so I like to see guns that are really out there and really unique.
When's that first Special Forces service with the Johnston LMG is going to show up?
I don't know. The Johnson rifles are fun to use.
Johnson rifles, yeah.
But I just want to see crazy stuff. Like I would love, because obviously they're going to want to pump out a bunch of premium squads, and it's kind of like, how many premium squads can you really put out there? Like War Thunder, tons, because I mean there's so many weird variants of tanks that were like 2 of them were built. But how many times were guns made where there was only like 2 of them made, right? Obviously a fair amount, but like for each faction,
believe there was only, I think it was less than, I know it's less than a dozen, but I can't remember the actual number of the Kalashnikov SMGs made, because they were used for a trial.
Yes, but would we actually remember that? Like,
no.
Would we know what those guns were, and would they be in the game if it wasn't specifically Kalashnikov that made it? Like,
I mean, that is a very good question.
Probably not. I would say
there's some wild weapons from World War II.
Which I'm cool with. Like, I want those wild things, like
the Welrod pistol.
Yeah, like the Welrod. I would love to have a Welrod.
Don't miss.
I don't know how that squad works, but I would love to have a Welrod in the game. I would love to have like sawn off trench Kar 98s or something like that, like some weird garbage weapons like that shouldn't be in the game and shouldn't have existed in real life, but like, fuck it, like let's do some weird, like some German just like sawed off the front of his Kar 98 and he's running around with it or something. Like, I don't know, man. Like, give me some weird stuff. That's what I want my premium squads to be. I don't want a premium squad that is just a different Mosin that has a bayonet. Like, I don't want that. I'm not going to pay for that. Like, I want some, Or
here's an SKS that's worse than the SVT.
Yeah, but even that, dude, I'll take that. Like, I will take that and play with it, because even that, like, is more unique than, like, that gun is more unique than the Mosin M44 or L44,
it really is,
whatever it is.
Very much is.
Yeah, Dog for Life brings a point that I also agree with, just that don't want to see the game filled with vehicles. I agree. Like, I think the focus of this game should absolutely be on infantry combat. And I think tanks fit really, really well with the game, and we've talked about this so much already, so we don't need to get into it. But I think tanks work really, really well for them, for the game, and work within the confines of infantry, and planes absolutely do not.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to be like, yeah, we promote infantry combat, and then the planes just shit on all the infantry every minute.
Your infantry combat is getting blown up by planes. Like, very fun.
Hey, I mean, at least there isn't a premium, like B-27 or something like that comes in, like, drops. What is it, like 20 plus
Lancasters?
Yeah,
just a Lancaster comes in. Just a nuke. Just drops a nuke. You just die.
29 comes in, drops a nuclear bomb. Yeah. I mean, they added that to War Thunder. Maybe they'll add that if you you get like 100 kills in a match. They drop a nuclear bomb.
Oh God! Every match would end with a nuke.
Yeah, every match would end with